Thanks for tuning in to Murder News, the true crime cult for the latest breaking news, murdery memes, TV reviews, podcast recommendations, and all things spooky. Winter is here. We hope that you're staying warm in our true crime cult where every day can be a holiday as we sit around petting baby goats, watching some forensic files, and discussing our favorite cold cases. I'm television's Aurora Katie.
I'm your online murder friend, Angelina. Cults are no fun alone, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell all of your true crime friends to join the commune at murder.news. This is the Week in True Crime. We have a special episode for you today as we are joined by Jon Chrymes, the amazing true crime YouTuber, writer, director, and blogger. Jon explores true crime cases with a very unique perspective, and each of his episodes feels more like a well-researched mini documentary than typical YouTube or podcast true crime coverage.
His channel is my absolute favorite, and we could not be more excited to have him here today. Let's welcome Jon Chrymes to the show. Okay, so Jon, my first question, you don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable, but is your real last name Chrymes? Is it a stage name, or were you just born into this world to make true crime documentaries?
No, I was not born to make true crime documentaries. I wish I was. But the way I spell crimes is on purpose. That's, CHRYMES, because it's the word crime, CRIMES, with my last name, which is Rhynes. And I spell Rhynes, RHYNES. So Rhynes and crimes, you get crimes.
I love it.
So my name is Jon Chrymes.
Perfect.
Nice, like portmanteau.
Yes. So
cool. What inspired you to start a true crime YouTube channel?
So I think I went through two different phases. I've always been deeply interested in true crime my whole life and growing up. And when I first got into true crime, I didn't realize this, but the thing that was interesting me the most was, I wonder how they're going to catch him. And then it went from, I wonder what stupid thing he did. They do all of this checklist to make sure they got it right, but it's always the one thing that they didn't account for. I saw a case last night. I'm one of those weirdos that when I get in bed, I just let forensic files play. So it was playing last night as I was going to bed. But it was an episode where this guy wanted to kill his wife. So he called another guy over and then shot that guy and then shot his wife and made it look like the intruder killed his wife. And the one thing he didn't account for was the note. The guy wrote on a sheet of paper the directions to his house with the time on there, letting the police know that they know each other. So it's just that one little thing. You went through all of that planning and you didn't think he was going to have a note. And now you got the rest of your life in jail for double homicide. So those things interested me the most. So, but then it moved into randomly a true crime channel popped up on my YouTube, and that was Kendall Ray. And I was like, oh, wow, somebody's doing this on YouTube. Now, I didn't know there's other people. I thought it was just Kendall Ray. Yeah. And so I would watch her all the time. And what I really liked about her was she's just not reciting the facts. She's actually putting her attitude and putting stuff inside of it. So I was like, I bet you I can do that. But I'm not gonna step on anybody's toes, but I bet you I can do that. And I kind of backed away a couple years or a year and a half. And then I come back and there are other true crime YouTubers that's coming on my list. And then one of them was a woman by the name of Stephanie Harlow. And I instantly just saw just the focus and detail that she has in her case. I'm like, yo, this girl is good. And she had a very small YouTube channel. I was like, she's going to be really huge. But so I started watching her live one day. And when she said that she worked at Verizon, she said that on the live. And because I was a manager at Verizon, I was like, there's no way she can be a mom and have these kids. There's no way she can do all this stuff with that random schedule and closing that store at nighttime and still it just was amazing, the research. So once I asked myself again, if she can do all of that, what's your excuse?
Right.
And that was it. So I made a YouTube channel. I didn't have a name. And that's when Jon Chrymes came really fast. I got to name it. Jon Chrymes. I don't use my real name, Chrymes. Jon Chrymes, spell it differently. And boom.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I feel like everybody in this is doing other things. Like we all have, especially right now during quarantine, all of our lives are kind of in like this like weird place. And it's amazing to me how many amazing things people make while they are a mom or while they are a dad or where they have a dog and they have like all these other jobs and such. Like it's just amazing what people are doing right now in the true crime world.
Yes. And I like the different ways that people approach it. Be it different kind of podcasts or different kind of YouTubers. I would watch a story, like it wouldn't be Forensic Files, that was too old, but maybe something on Investigation Discovery. And then the same story is on Snap. And it took me like 15 minutes into the episode to realize this is the same case because they had covered it so differently.
Yeah.
And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
so that's
it's
what
really,
I like about us.
Yeah, it's cool to see how different YouTubers and podcasters spin similar stories. And it's like you never run out of material. Like you can do something that someone else has done, but there's always more details and always another way to look at it, right?
Yeah, always a different way to look at it. Yeah.
Well, your channel is just gorgeous. Like talking about your brand, it's very theatrical. Like it's very beautiful. And for anyone who's new to your channel, get ready for a treat because you make our channel and other true crime channels look like absolute trash.
No. I think people, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think people will be surprised at how much is accidental. Like what you just said, like the things that you may like, I think, I don't know if you're gonna cut this out because I don't know if you talk about it, but I think your husband would see in a different light because I'm breaking the rules and doing stuff you're not supposed to do. And it's becoming by accident, like with lighting. Like people like, here's a funny story for you. People like when I get close up and cut my head off. You're not supposed to cut your head off in the shot, but people like it.
I love it.
And it's in black and white. I'm gonna tell you how it came in black and white. I'll tell you the exact video. If you go to my story on Gannon Stout.
Naturally when you watch a film, you put yourself into the mind of the protagonist. And while this isn't a film, this is real true life horror.
I did that similar style on my Chris Watts video in color. The reason it's in black and white on Gannon Stout is because if you go look at it, my beard is in black and white and it's two strings, one hair on this side, one on the other that stick out like Wendy's, her hair stick out. It's one here and one here and it's in color and I'm editing. I'm like, this is embarrassing. Like once you see this, you're not going to be able to unsee it. When it go to my Gannon Stout story, is one hair going out and I couldn't hide it. I'm like, the only way I'm going to hide this, I'm going to have to put this in black and white.
Wow.
Oh my God, I love that.
And we were like, great artistic choice.
Yeah, everybody was like, love it. Like, this is awesome. I'm like, okay, I'll keep doing it. But those two hairs wouldn't have been like that. I would still be in color now.
Right.
Yeah.
But like what you're saying about like breaking the rules and that makes you feel like maybe you're not there or you're not part of the industry. Like I feel like once you're an artist, you can break the rules and that's what makes art. Like we look at like Dali and, like some greats and it's like you look at some of their early work and they had to master actually being good at depicting somebody realistically before they could get to a point where they could bend the rules and make it their own. And so I say, screw it. Like what you're doing is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm glad that you're breaking the rules because it's gorgeous. You should keep breaking them.
I appreciate that. I want to be one of those people that help somebody. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm fancy. I'm up here. I want to show you like, dude, I had a wrong hair on my face and like let people know that you can do this stuff for cheap as well too. And my Gannon Stock video, that was a cheaper, older camera. And the very next video I think I did was on Lori Vallow. I finally got a more expensive camera. On the Gannon Stout video, I had this little ring light right here. And I like the way it casts a shadow. But on the very next video, I had real 3 like setup lightings, the one overhead. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It didn't look the feel. So I went back and even today I use my ring light, even though I got a whole bunch of light sets. So It's just whatever works. It doesn't have to be the best stuff.
Yeah. So, how did you learn this? Was it all by accident? Do you have a film background? What was your inspiration for the production of your videos?
I have a background in writing and storytelling. I have a bachelor's degree in creative writing. So I was the kind of technical person. I didn't know it. I have a friend that does all the technical stuff that he's always done it for me. So I focus on telling the story, not for my channel. So everything you see on my channel is me by accident. I will use two camera angles because my daughter was watching her Disney. It was a Disney commercial of a TV show, and the girl was like, "Yeah, watch my show tonight on Disney." And then I had a little camera on the side, and it was filming her.
Uh-huh.
But when the way you do that style is the second camera comes in for like 5 seconds. But since my memory was so messed up from it, I didn't remember it. I would do both equally, y'all, So
Right.
it was another accident and people like that stuff. So I didn't have any background. When I made my first video, I had a Canon T3i for over 10 years. I rarely used it for photos because I wasn't a photographer. And I only knew how to hit record. I didn't know what different camera lenses were, wide. I didn't know anything at all. I took the kit lens and the T3i and I would hit record and I would move it back and forth so it wouldn't be blurry. I didn't even know my camera had like autofocus or anything like that on it.
Right.
And even when I got upgraded and got a better camera, I didn't even know about the iFocus. So I'm still using manual focus on cameras that people are buying because of the autofocus. I literally knew nothing. And I had to stay up late on YouTube and watch hundreds of videos from people who have big YouTube channels on cameras. And I just watched relentlessly and learned and played with all of this stuff until I figured it out.
Awesome.
All of this happened during Jon Chrymes. So from the first video, I learned through all into what you see now.
Right. Always
Such a learning process. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We feel the same.
Yeah.
What piqued your interest in true crime? Is this something you've always been into? I know you have a background as a fireman. Could that have played a role in your interest?
No, the interest was just pretty much just watching the cases or whatever. When you got a real interest, you don't really know where it's coming from until you look in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, like when I was a firefighter, I didn't realize how much I had got caught up on the Scott Peterson case. And now people are getting all at one time, but when it was happening live, it took months before they found Lacey Peterson's body. So I'll be working on a fire truck and or cleaning out the fire truck in the morning, make sure everything good. And I'll be trying to find ways to leave everybody and run back in the day room to watch because it was on the news like all that morning. I forget what channel. I think it was Court TV back in the day. We're talking like early 2000, but I was always super interested in this stuff more than normal people. But something was, I don't know if it was changing in me, but I just knew on the surface, I wanted to see how they was going to catch the person. But under the surface, it was, this dude is freaking horrible. Like these are some really wicked people on earth. And these, people are losing their lives shortly. And like, all for what? Like I was always like, what is this for? Like, why did you go to this point to end this person's life because you want to date him and you didn't want to be? You could have just left, and now you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison. That was brewing under, and I think that completely took over where I didn't even care about the aspect of how somebody got caught. It was all about just the victim. When I got into this case of this father murdering his two daughters in the back of his cab, of Sarah and Amina Saeed. So when I finally made my channel and I was like, well, what video am I going to do first? And I was like, oh, I got to do that. That got to be the one.
Wow.
Right. And on that note, you really do find some interesting cases that might be new for some people in the true crime community even. So what is your process like for finding cases to cover and how do they end up on your radar?
Whatever makes me mad. And that's in whatever, if you look at Vera Joe Regal, I'm watching, that was a weird documentary, no disrespect, it was just a different documentary that I was watching, but under it all, I was like, how can somebody life be this bad and somebody can just treat somebody? So when it's that horrible, you walking around and this is on your mind all day and you're thinking about it. So if you're thinking about it that strongly, you're going to do it. Or Caitlin Nicole Davis, which isn't even it's a suicide. It's not even a murder, but just how can somebody neglect a child to this much that it just really, really bothered me, and I just could not turn away. I had to make a speech and like, I know I'm supposed to do true crime. I don't care what the rules are. I'm about to cover this case. So whatever gets to me here, that's the one I want to do. Like the one I'm doing now. My audience and everybody is telling me they like the Zach and Addie video I did, and they want to know the Zach and Addie part 2. So
love that one.
thank you. It kind of makes me I'm going to give you what you want and do the Zach and Addie quote unquote part 2, but I really don't like that. I don't like that this woman is dead and she don't know Zach and Addie. She never met him in her life. I don't like that her life is hidden beyond that. So I'm going to give you what you want, but by the time it goes off, we're going to make her important and
Right.
tell, let her story be told.
Mm-hmm.
So it always comes from here. There's no, my audience probably gets mad at me if I say I'm going to do something, because I don't go off a schedule, so I can't say I'm gonna do something. I'll get ready to do it, and then I'm like, yo, they threw a kid in a swamp and left him there. I want to do that. I'm gonna do that now, and I just totally don't do what I said I was gonna do. So
I really appreciate the tone of how you cover these cases. Like the true crime community is kind of a mixed bag of everything from comedy to sometimes even being exploitative.
yeah.
What's your mindset for telling these stories? Because it always feels so respectful and from this place of getting in the mindset of the victims and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I had this conversation with Stephanie. Most of these stories, even not even the YouTubers or not even people on podcasts, it can go all the way to Investigation Discovery and Discovery Channel, wherever you're watching these cases, or even Nancy Gray real live news cases.
Mm-hmm.
They name it after the killer. Let's watch the Lori Vallow trial.
Right.
Like, what about the victim? Like, you're forgetting the person that is no longer here. And the fact that they're gone and their lives have been stripped away is the only reason that we are here in the first place. So that automatically takes over, and I automatically put myself in their shoes. And when I mean automatically, I mean literally, because it's such the right thing to say, make you sound like a good person. I put myself in the victim's shoes. No, like I can't help it. I'm freaking angry. I'm mad, because what happened to this person?
Right.
So I share that. Another thing too that it comes across like more raw is I don't have a script. I've never script anything. My process is, by the time I've done so much research and learn and I'm ready to record, I walk around in my living room, just around the table. I just keep walking around. I'm walking back and forth like this, and I get to some point, snapping my hand, like, oh, and I'm getting, I'm going through the whole story, every detail. And when you see me on camera reciting the details to it, that's all from memory. And,
Wow.
and so I'm just telling the story just that way.
Wow.
That's amazing. I don't like, I'm so
Yeah, it
impressed.
really
and,
is.
and I love that because, we're friends with a lot of true crime podcasters. We're friends with some filmmakers and such in the true crime world. And like so many of them say that when they tell these stories that they just don't feel connected to the victims. And for them, that's kind of like they have to keep themselves separated because it's just too much. Like it would be too much for them to process that from their side. And whenever I hear people say that, I'm like, how do you do that? Because I get so emotionally attached and I get emotional. Like I often cry when I'm writing up these stories. So it's interesting to hear that you feel that way too, because I feel like a lot if that is sort of devoid in the true crime family. Like a lot of people can kind of take a step back from it, which is also impossible for me.
Yeah. And I feel glad to not detach sometimes. Like sometimes you're like, oh, I wish I could detach from this and, tell the story without feeling personally affected or whatever. But at the same point, it's like, it's positive because you are giving the right voice to the victims and that sort of thing by really looking at it from that. I don't know. It's like dehumanizing to really just treat it as any other news story. Like you're talking about objects or like any sort of past tense thing, It's
It really does. And I don't notice until hindsight. It really literally, I don't want to be one of those people that overuse the word literally, but it literally leaks out in the video. Like Virgil Regal, I'm so upset that after they stabbed her all those times, they left her on the train tracks with the hopes that the train will run over her body and destroy all the evidence. And they call that, we're going to turn her to hamburger meat. So after I learned these details and I'm walking around, my eyes closing, and I just feel myself on the rocks, the cold rocks between a train track, and it's dark. And then you wouldn't even walk that way alone, even if you weren't stabbed. If you just by yourself walking, you'd be scared, but she can't get up. She's hurt. So when you watch my video, I got actors to play out the part, but I took the camera, and instead of showing the camera on Vera, I made the camera become her eyes, lay down. So the audience, you lay down on the rock, you see how it is when you try to get up and put yourself off of the rail, but in between the two rails, so the train will ride over you for her to take her last strength to do that. I was literally trying to get everybody to watch that video to put themselves in her shoes to see how she feels. And if you get there, now you're not eating your popcorn and just entertaining. Now you care about her.
Right.
That's fantastic.
That's great. I love your method. It's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Well, I really enjoyed and appreciated the cases on your show that you covered, especially Ahmaud Arbery and your coverage of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Out of all the cases you've covered, which has been the most interesting for you to research?
Interesting is an interesting word. The most interesting to research.
Yeah, and that can be engrossing, that can be which one moved you the most, any way you want to interpret that.
I'm gonna have to go with Caitlyn. The Caitlyn case got so personal to me that I did a video after that, and I was so sad because it was getting more views. And Stephanie Harlow asked me, she was like, why are you upset? I'm like, I just feel like I didn't do Caitlyn right. I should have did her story later because I know more stuff now. And now, like that was like my baby of all cases because of the research. The research took me to drive to her hometown, took me to filming areas to where people around the city were following me around. And, she hung herself from a tree live on social media for people who don't know. So it took me to the direct tree where she stood. I remember I took a rock from that. So I'm like, there's no way she could have hung herself from that tree if she would not have stepped here, and it was embedded deep down. I took that. I still have it. Matter of fact, it's right over there. But I got that close and that emotional to her case, which actually today is the 31st. We're doing this New Year's Eve. Yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of her taking her life.
Oh.
But yeah, I got really, really attached to that. I just felt like with her being in Georgia, I wish that I could have adopted her and she would have just saw one person that cared about her and it wouldn't have happened. So that would be the one.
Wow, that's beautiful.
All right. So Jon, we need to see this cup here, your wine cup. Tell us all about it.
My wine cup. See if I can get it in focus. This cup says, what would Kendall Ray do? So that you know how much of a big fan I was. I had it for a couple years now. So it's funny, humorous, got my wine inside of it. But on a serious note, when you see somebody that's successful, there are people that's going to come and try to mess with you, try to bother you, try to get you off your game, or you may get frustrated, or you may say, I want to give up and say, I don't want to do this anymore. I look and stare at this cup and I say, what would Kendall Ray do? Because in order for you to have that many followers and that many people on your platform, that means she had to go through every single obstacle that you're going through or that you're thinking about. So sometimes with me just staring and looking at that question, it'll pivot me to the right direction.
Aw, that's so inspiring.
That's great. And I can't imagine what her trolls are like. Poor thing.
Yeah,
oh my God, that'd be so much to filter through.
Yeah.
We want to be able to direct our viewers to find you and support you on all your platforms. So where can our viewers find you on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram at Jon Chrymes. That's JonChrymes. And then I think the Twitter handle, I couldn't get the name Jon Chrymes. So it's J Chrymes at J Chrymes on Twitter. And of course, the YouTube channel, Jon Chrymes.
Perfect.
Jon, it's been such a pleasure having you. We really appreciate your insight into all of this. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, I'm sorry we're such like trash compared to you.
No. We all here, man. We all here. Like I love you guys. And I told you, I'll be there. So anytime you
Awesome.
need anything, I'm here.
We love your style. It was so great meeting and chatting with you.
Anytime.
Thanks so much for tuning into This Week in True Crime with Murder News. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below, give us a thumbs up, and tell all of your true crime friends.
Help support Murder News by signing up our commune at murdernews, and your $5 a month sponsorship helps keep the true crime lights on. It helps us produce our weekly show and helps support our amazing writers that keep you up to date with the latest breaking news every day on murdernews. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. See you next week.